Ellen woke up in the hospital and was horrified to find that she couldn't see anything. She could only hear the doctor beside her saying, "This is permanent blindness caused by corrosive liquid." Ellen suddenly recalled that on her way home last night, she was unexpectedly sprayed with an unknown liquid, and then she ended up like this. Who was trying to harm her? The police investigated for a long time, but found nothing. When contacting her family, she couldn't get through on the phone. Her only relative abroad inexplicably arranged a caregiver for her and provided her with a luxurious apartment. This apartment had a spacious living room, an exquisite kitchen, and was close to the street block. It sounded very lively, but for Ellen, everything was just darkness. The caregiver not only took care of her daily needs, but also taught her how to use a cane for the blind, taught her to use dictation software for the visually impaired, and helped her adapt to a new lifestyle. One day, the caregiver brought a parrot as a pet. Ellen curiously asked, "What color is it?" However, the caregiver said it was blue. This sentence seemed to imply to Ellen that everything she could perceive now was only her imagination and the description from the caregiver. After living there for a few days, Ellen began to notice some suspicious points. First, she noticed that something was wrong with two windows not far apart. One window was very windy and noisy outside, while the other was as quiet as a wall. What puzzled her even more was that a police siren would sound outside the window at regular intervals, sounding every day on time, lasting for 1 minute, as precise as an alarm clock. And as a luxurious apartment, the TV had no signal, and Ellen couldn't access any outside information. What made her even more horrified was that Ellen sometimes heard a woman crying in the ventilation duct in the corridor. This ventilation duct was connected to the neighbor's house, and she began to suspect that the neighbor might have been a victim of domestic violence. However, the caregiver said this was just a manifestation of Ellen's excessive anxiety, a hallucination. Not believing in superstition, Ellen decided to check for herself. She mustered up the courage to invite the neighbor over for tea. The next evening, the neighbor really came, with a relaxed tone, as if nothing had happened, until Ellen touched the scars on the neighbor's face. The neighbor suddenly nervously grasped her hand and whispered to her, "Don't trust anyone." Then, the neighbor hurriedly left. The vigilant Ellen immediately called the police. After the police checked the neighbor's house, they said everything was normal and there were no scars or domestic violence as she described. Ellen still had doubts and decided to go find the neighbor again. However, she encountered the neighbor's husband in the corridor. Although she couldn't see, the malice emanating from the man made Ellen shudder. The man warned her not to interfere and then slammed the door. Ellen was so frightened that she immediately called the caregiver and told her about the man's threat. However, at this time, the caregiver actually confessed to Ellen and couldn't help but kiss her. Ellen resisted strongly and pushed her away, and the caregiver left helplessly. Soon after, Ellen heard a strange noise from the living room and went out to check. She thought it was the caregiver returning, but she didn't expect the other person to directly strangle her until she passed out. When Ellen woke up again, the caregiver was holding her tightly. Ellen felt a chill in her heart, and her intuition told her that the person who had just strangled her was the masked person who attacked her that night.